My mommy lesson is 4.1. My mommy lesson is 4 plus 1.
Great. Today we are doing multiplication patterns with decimals. Our essential question, how can patterns help you place the decimal point in a product? Our Common Core standard is right here. We are understanding the place value system. Let's unlock the problem. Cindy is combining equal-sized rectangles from different fabric patterns to make a postage stamp quilt. Each rectangle has an area of 75 hundredths of a square inch. If she uses 1,000 rectangles to make the quilt, what will the area be? So we're going to use the pattern to find the product, just like we did in chapter 1, and then we did it again last chapter 2, where we were multiplying by the powers of 10. We're doing the same thing because 1 times 75 hundredths is going to be 75 hundredths, but 10 times 75 hundredths, we're just moving our decimal point over. So then we're going to have 7 and 5 tenths. 100 times 75 hundredths, now we're moving the decimal point over 2 spots. So now we're going to have 75. If we're doing it 1,000 times, we're going to move the decimal spot over 3 times. So it's going to be 750. So it's going to have an area of 750 square inches. As you multiply by increasing powers of 10, how does the position of the decimal point change in the product? The answer to that is the decimal point moves 1 place to the right each time I multiply by the power of 10. So 1 power of 10, I multiply it once to the right. 100 is 2 powers of 10, so I'm going to multiply it twice to the right. 1,000 is 3 powers of 10, so I'm going to multiply it 3 times to the right. Place value patterns can be used to find the product of a number in a decimal from 1/10 to 1/100. So let's look at the example. Jorge is making a scale model of the Willis Tower in Chicago for a theater set. The height of the tower is 1,353 feet. If the model is 1/100th of the actual size of the building, how tall is the model? So now we're going the opposite way. 1 times 1,353 is 1,353. 1/10, and you can write it like, like it is right there, or you can say 1/10 of 1,353. I'm going to move my decimal point to the right, because remember at the end of all whole numbers, there's a decimal point. So I'm going to get 135 and 3/10. On the next one, it's 1/100th, right? So that's the same thing as saying 1/100th of 1,353. I'm going to move my decimal point 2 spaces, right? So now I'm going to have 13.53, or 13 and 53 hundredths. So Jorge's model of Willis Towers is 13 and 53 hundredths feet tall. So let's read the number 2. It says, as you multiply by decreasing powers of 10, how does the position of the decimal point change in the product? Well, first let me back up. Over here, I needed to answer these questions, and I'm sorry about that. I did it over here, but let's put it on here. What fraction of the actual size of the building is the model? So it's 1/100ths, right? So let's put 1/100ths. And then write a fraction for the, what is the fraction of the model? So it's going to be 0.01, because that also says 100ths, correct? So again, now we're back here on number 2. So as you multiply by the decreasing power of 10, how does the position of the decimal point change in the product? So the answer is the decimal point moves 1 place to the left as I multiply by the decreasing value. Example 2. 3 friends are selling items at an arts and crafts fair. Josie makes $45.75 selling jewelry. Mark makes 100 times as much as Josie makes by selling his costume furniture. Chance makes 1/10 of the money that Mark makes by selling paintings. How much money does each friend make? So let's take it apart. So we have Josie, right? 45.75. Mark makes 100 times as much. So it's 100 times as much. So let's think about it. Well, 1 times 45.75 is 45.75. Excuse me, there we go. 10 times 45.75 is going to be 457.5 0. Because remember, we're just moving our decimal over 1, just like we did before. So 100 times, we're going to move our decimal over again, right? 4575.50, okay? Because we're moving our decimal. So 1 times is just regular. 10 times, I move my decimal over once. And then for 100 times, I move it over twice. I move it over 2 spaces, okay? So let's look at chance. Well, chance is 1/10, right? So you can write it as 1 over 10, or you can just write it as 0.1, right? Let me fix that. So this is going to be 0.1 times $4,575.50. Because remember that it says that Chance makes 1/10 as much money as Mark. And we know that this is how much money Mark makes because we already worked that up. So we're going to think 1 times $4,575 is $4,575, right? So 0.1 times $4,575 is $457.50. Because remember, you're moving your decimal this way, right? You're moving your decimal over 1. So Josie makes $45.75. Mark makes $4,575. And Chance makes $457.50. All right, let's complete the pattern. So I have 10 to the 0 power, or the power of 0, times 4 and 78/8. So I'm going to do 4.78, because that's like saying 1 times it, right? Now, 10 to the first power, and now I'm going to move my decimal over. I'm going to move my decimal over 1 space, so it's going to be 47.8. Now I'm going to move my decimal over 2 spaces. 1, 2. So it's going to be 478, right? Now I'm going to move my decimal over 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. There's nothing there, so I'm going to add a 0, right? Because I'm just moving my decimal over. It's going to be 4780. See the pattern? On this one, I don't move my 0 at all. I don't move my decimal at all. On this one, I moved my decimal over 1 space. This one, 2 spaces. This one, 3 spaces. So let's do number B. 38 times 1. Well, that's 38. Now I'm going the other direction with my decimal. So this is saying I'm going to move my decimal over 1 space. So it's going to be 3.8. Because remember, your decimal on a whole number is going to be at the end of the whole number, 0, 0, right? So the next one, I'm going to move my decimal over how many spaces? 2, because see how there's 2 spaces there? So now it's going to be 0.38. So let's look at the share and show. We're going to complete the pattern. They've already done part of it for us. So 10 to the 0, I don't do anything with my decimal. It stays the same. First power of 10, I move my decimal over 1 space because there's a 1 there. So see how they moved the decimal over 1 space? Second power, we moved it over 2 spaces. Third power, I'm going to move it over 3 spaces. 1, 2, and there's no number there, so I'm going to add it as a 0. So it's going to be 17040, okay? Because I had to move it over 1, 2. There's no space there, so I'm going to put a 0 and move it over. So think. The decimal point moves 1 place to the right for each increasing power of 10. When I'm doing a decreasing power, my decimal moves to the left. So whenever I'm multiplying it times the decreasing power of like 0.1 or 0.001, I'm going to the left. Whenever I'm moving it times a power of 10, I'm moving it to the right. All right, let's complete these patterns. So we're, again, doing by the power of 10 here. So we've got 1 times 3 and 1900ths. So when it's 1, it's going to be 3 and 1900ths, right? It's not going to change because it's just 1. Now I'm doing it by the power of 10. So now I'm going to move my decimal over 1. So now it's going to be 31.9. Now I'm doing it by 100. So it's going to be 2, right? Because there's 2 zeros there. So it's going to be 3. Okay, it's going to be 1, 9. Because I'm moving it over, right? I'm moving it over 2 times. 1, 2. Now on this one, I'm moving it over 3 times. 1, 2, 3. There's nothing there, so I'm going to add a 0. So it's going to be 3,100. 190. Okay, let's look at number 3. So on number 3, I'm multiplying by the 0 power of 10. That's the same thing as I'm multiplying it by 1. So it's going to stay the same, 45 and 6/10. On this one, I'm multiplying by the power of 1, so I'm going to move the decimal over one space, so one space. So it'll be 456. And this one, it's by the power of 2, so I'm going to move my decimal 2 spaces, 1, 2. There's nothing there when I move it over, so I'm just going to add a 0, okay? So 4, 5, 6, 0, so 4,560. On this one, I'm doing it by the power of 3, so it's going to be 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. Again, there's nothing in those spaces, so I have to put zeros. So this is going to be 4, 5, 6, 0, 0, or 45,600. So let's look at this next one, number 4. 1 times 6,391. Well, we all know that's 6,391. So now I'm going the opposite way because I'm multiplying by 1/10, right? So now I'm going to move my decimal. My decimal on a regular whole number is always at the end, so I'm going to move it over one space. So it's going to be 639.1, or 639 and 1/10. Now I'm moving it over 2 decimals, because see how I have 2 here? I'm moving over by 1/100th. Okay, so now it's going to be, so here's my normal decimal. It's going to go 1, 2 spaces. So it's going to be 63.91, or 63 and 91/100ths. Okay, you're going to do the rest on your own, but I do want to go over a couple of them with you. So let me drag this up, drag this out of the way. Okay, so on your own, these problems right here are going to be just like we did, okay? So when you're multiplying by the power of 10, you're going to have increasing numbers, right? And you're going to move your decimal to the right. Over here, when I'm multiplying by 1/10, I'm moving my decimal to the left because I'm having decreasing numbers. Okay, looking at the algebra and function on this one, on the hot problem, okay, I have n times a number, and it equals this. Well, if I'm looking at this, right, my decimal moved, here's my decimal, normally it's in between the 3 and the 2. So if my decimal was in between the 3 and the 2, right, and I moved it over to make it this, I moved it over 1, 2 spaces, right? So what tells me to multiply it to move it over 2 spaces? Well, that's going to be 100, right? Or you could say 10 to the second. Either one of these answers would be great for in this box, okay? Now on this next one, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, okay, I have decreasing number because I'm multiplying by 1/10. So then that means this original number must have been bigger because I'm making it smaller, right? So now I'm moving my decimal to the opposite side, okay? And that's the number that's going to go here. And this one is the same thing. I have 10 to the power of 3, and I have 630. So what number must this number have been originally in order, because I moved my decimal over 3 spaces, because that's what that tells me. Okay, those are the only hints I'm going to give you for the hot problems and the on your own. I am on the carpet if you need any assistance. There is one big problem solving that you might want to work together with a partner for. Again, if you need anything, I will be on the carpet. Good luck.